Okay, I guess we are now live. I would like to, my name is Kate, the founder of Kate Vass Gallery. And just, before we start, to give a short summary why we are doing this. Anne from Super Rare reached out to us and asked if we can be of help to moderate some sort of panel in order to support Super Rare Generative and AI Art Week from 7th to 10th of September. And being a big fan of generative art and also working closely with generative artists, I was thinking, how can I contribute? And as a woman and as a gallerist, and I felt like it would be really great if we kind of all ladies come together and talk about the current issues that we have with the art market. So I would like to thank all of you, and we have quite quite a great team. I think we have Sofia Crespo joining from Berlin. We have Anna Ridler joining from London. Anne Spalter joining from, I don't know, where are you now, New York, or still in outside?
I'm in Vermont, but my background.
Vermont. Okay, now you're in Vermont. And Helena, Sarin from New York, right?
New Jersey, but it's close.
Okay, great. So we are also, I'm based in Zurich, so we are all international, sitting in different spaces and discussing the global issues. Today, I would like to talk about different topics, the gender diversity, pricing, valuation, and more other questions which might pop up during our discussion. We have a limited time, so we will try to be as efficient as possible. But I would like to start with some introductions. Probably one of each of you can introduce yourself a little bit to the crowd. Anna, we start by the screens that I see. You go first.
So my name is Anna Ridler. I am an artist and also researcher based in London. I've been working with information and data for about 10 years, and I have become increasingly interested in working with machine learning, both as a tool and a process. So I'm really interested in doing everything from the start, from building all the data sets through to kind of like constructing all the algorithms and then playing with the output. And how it is experienced by a viewer. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Anna. Sofia?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Sofia Crespo. I'm a generative artist and I work with nature mainly. So what I'm interested in is algorithms that are inspired in biological processes, and that's how I found out about neural networks. And the idea for me is not just the algorithm, but combining that with a data set which has nature as a conversation, as a visual conversation. So using new technologies to connect with nature.
Thank you, Sofia. Anne?
Hi, I'm Anne Spalter, and I started teaching computers in the fine arts at the Rhode Island School of Design when I was actually looking to take a course, and none existed at the time, and ended up starting their fine art computer programs there and at Brown University. And I actually stayed on at Brown University working for the computer science department. And one of the things I did there was help run outreach programs to get young women interested in computer science, working with local schools in the Providence area. Also, obviously, I'm a female artist. I've been working with technology now for many decades, and also a collector of computer art. So trying with that hat to collect female artists like Vera Molnar and other women who have been working for a long time in this field.
Thank you, Anne. Helena?
Hi, Helena Sarin, New Jersey. I'm a visual artist and also software engineer. I kind of like worked in both industries. And for the last 3 years, I've been primarily working with generative adversarial networks. Like Anna, I also work exclusively with my own data sets. And like Sofia, I like natural stuff, and like my recent works are around leaves and salad leaves and all this like garbage and junk.
Okay. And you also publish books, right?
Yeah, I started publish artist books because generative networks are so prolific. So I think like it's a good idea to combine it in a book, and then it's kind of like more democratic and cheaper for like people. They are more affordable.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I just want to share my next slide, and like maybe we can first move to our first questions about the generally, like about how does it feel, like being a female artist working in art and tech environment in general. Maybe some of you has something to say. I mean, I have my own experience, but I'm not an artist. So I wish to you, because I mean, recently I heard from Sofia that kind of generally there are some issues being a lady in the art and tech space.
Yeah, I definitely think there are some issues. Like, I think that as we work with technology, we rely on kind of communicating with some networks of people that are really male dominated. And at least I can only speak from my own like personal experience, but when I got started with this and I was seeking for help, I was just on like Stack Overflow or on Twitter thinking, who do I ask for help now? And all the people I had there were male. And in a way, I felt kind of vulnerable because I was thinking, oh, what if, I ask a dumb question and then I just help reinforce this sexist bias that women are bad with technology, or so these were my personal insecurities, but in a way I guess they're kind of coming from a place of my own personal experience. So
Okay.
but yeah, I'm really curious to hear more about like also what Anne has to say about this, because I know she worked teaching and has experience with.
Anne Spetler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have never really felt any overt sexism working in the field of technology. So I'm sure that it's there, but I can't say that I've ever really directly experienced it. I mean, obviously from the statistics, it's working out there, but people I have found have been, unlike actually sometimes in the traditional art world, I've found the computer science technical art world is in general very friendly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think art and technology market has been very, very close and friendly so far. But I guess it's growing, and probably some changes are coming, also acquiring from different other fields. I don't know. Do you have any stories to share with Anna? How's it in England?
I think on the whole, I think I've found kind of like the community to be very welcoming and open, and kind of wanting to encourage kind of like not just women but people into kind of working with art and tech. But I also have these kind of insecurities, maybe a bit like Sofia, and these kind of like these moments where, so for example, my partner is a research scientist, and I often get people asking whether he wrote the code for me or whether he made the piece for me rather than me making it. And I think this definitely happened a lot more kind of when I was just starting out, because and that used to make me, you really get this kind of like imposter syndrome, because you're like, well, you know, like maybe he did help me fix this bug. Does that mean he made it? Should I be, you know, like where? And I think this also kind of like maybe this slipperiness kind of like comes in, because, you know, like a whole other issue is about crediting and how you credit people in the art space and the art world in this kind of field. And I think kind of like there is this kind of nervousness and hesitation around being like, no, I made this, no, I did this, no, I did this all myself, when you're kind of working off kind of like and kind of like building stuff off the back of kind of stuff that's maybe already been published or kind of like things like that.
Yeah, definitely. But there were also maybe some historically, you know, there were many women who've been working with male partners and been inspiring them, you know, by themselves. And I mean, male partners were taking more credits probably, you know, for the work that they've been done and been more inclusive in the market, you know, like, and welcomed maybe a little bit more. I think, you know, by some statistics which I found, you know, I think there was no female artist even allowed till 1870s, you know, so basically like till the end of the 19th century. I think it also kind of shows that there was some kind of male dominance overall, you know, and the woman had a position for a certain purpose, you know, of why being in this world, you know, like what purpose to serve. And I guess, you know, for the last century, it has changed, it's shifted. Also, we see a lot of talented people, and also a lot of female artists, obviously, you know, kind of making a market also for the last sales, for example, on at the auction, they were a big shift towards female artists. I mean, why and how, it's a different question, but I guess, you know, this is a general tendency, and there is some good and bad about it, you know. I don't know, Helena, do you have any experience? Because I think, you know, I don't know your story. When did you move to United States, and where do you work, and how does it look like?
In US, I'm like around 20 years, and for many years I worked for Bell Labs, and it was male dominant, of course, like research and stuff, hardcore tech. But honestly, maybe because it was like laid back environment, I mean, I didn't have any problems. I mean, and when I started kind of like doing art professionally in terms of like AI art, like the last 3 years, I would say again, I mean, on Twitter, it's mostly kind of, you find your tribe in a sense, and this is like where you spend time. I don't go to Reddit for the same reason. I don't need any toxicity in my life, but like people in the AI community, in the AI art community, they are nice. I mean, no problem.
That's
yeah.
Well, I mean, general tendency, you know, in AI community and also in art and tech community, so far for me as well, it's been friendly, and it's been very close, you know, and I really cherish that, and I really hope that this tendency will continue, and that it's not going to be ruined by the time that we grow, the community grows, when new people are coming from different fields, from technology, from art world, from traditional art world, and more collectors are coming into space as well. So maybe moving to the next topic, you know, about the valuation of artworks, you know, which actually also, I guess, one leads to another. That due to a lack of interest probably, or also not as being so trendy, you know, among the collectors as well. You know, this is the statistics that I've been, I took, how the female art is priced under male. And if you can see here on there, let me just put it on the slide, you know, there is at least 20, 30% sometimes difference, you know, on how the art is placed also in different continents. Here we see like Africa, Middle East, Asia, Europe. Europe is kind of very, Europe and Asia shows quite a big spread in numbers. Latin America, North America, and Oceania. Yeah, I mean, this is very kind of disturbing for me because I'm in Europe and it's supposed to be progressive, you know, it's a democratic society. We're supposed to be like, you know, tolerant to gender diversity, also of, yeah, of many things. And this is kind of a sad picture here, you know, to see like 20% the difference between the prices. Do you have any experience of from your side when it comes to pricing of your own art?
Maybe I'll start if you don't mind. I mean, from my personal experience, I think like definitely to some degree it's my issue because I constantly undervalue my stuff. And because, not because I think I undervalue it, I think like in many cases, male artists have this chutzpah to overprice their work. So I think my prices are fair, so their prices is like blown out. But on the other hand, I think like I would expect more women collectors as well. That's another story, because like if I look at statistics of people who reach out to buy prints and books especially, I mean, it's like, I would say it's 70% are male.
I would say 85.
Okay. So yeah, I was generous, but yeah, I think we kind of like, it's another problem.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah.
That the collectors are also male dominated. I guess it also comes to their financial freedom, you know, like collect, you need to be flexible in terms of how much you can afford and how much you can spend. And I think I guess, you know, it's one related to another. That maybe also like how where women spend now, they collect, I don't know, I mean, fashion probably, I have no idea. I mean, where majority of women spend, if they have a budget. If they don't have a budget, usually it's a family, and then women tend to be on a safe side of saving for children or something like that, you know. So
that
I guess
could be
kind of mentality that women have different tendency of how they spend their money. But I also see some more interest from lady collectors, you know, collecting digital art, for example. You know, we have some new female artists as well in the space. And I mean, I was very happy to get to know Anne Spalter, who is one of the most known collectors, together with Michael, her husband, in this world of generative art. So maybe you, Anne, can comment also on the part of a collector side, you know, like, do you see the tendency that it's male dominated?
Oh, you kind of broke up at the end there. Can you repeat the question?
Do you hear me?
Now I hear you.
Yeah, I said, maybe you can comment as well on that, you know, that there is some male dominance in collecting as well, collecting art.
Yeah, absolutely. That has been my experience from, you know, both sides in the collector world and as an artist, having my work collected and being on the digital art acquisitions committee at the Whitney, which is actually led by a woman, Christiane Paul. But I would say that just reflects, you know, culture and where we're at. I think progress has been made, though. So it actually, I think, bodes well for the future. If you look back, 100 years ago, women were just getting the vote in our country. So change has actually been very dramatic. I wish it could change even more quickly, but I think it is moving in the right direction. And one of the things that's interesting to me about the blockchain and sites like SuperRare is that when I went on there as a collector, I couldn't tell the gender of most of the artists. Even I guess my name, I didn't think about it when I did my handle as just a Spalter instead of putting, Anne or something on it. So maybe, we're influenced subconsciously when we're looking at artwork in ways we don't know when we see the name. But when you look at things on a site like SuperRare, you really can't tell most of the time what the gender of the artist is, and you're really just looking at the artwork. And I think that's very intriguing and could be an interesting type of experiment to see if it shifts what gets collected.
Yeah, that's interesting to compare, when you kind of distance yourself from the gender, who is the artist, who is the creator of this and that work, if you cannot really tell from the name.
Yeah, it's like a blind, in the sciences, if you submit research, it's often peer reviewed and it's anonymized. So they don't know where it came from. And that pretty much never happens in the art world because you can recognize people's style, even if it's supposedly blinded. But this way I could just look through and I didn't know if someone was sort of famous in the blockchain world and commanding a high price or not. So it was nice as just looking and being able to make up my mind based on what the images looked like.
Thank you, Anne. Anna, do you have any experience in sales of your art? Because the work that we've been shown for the last year, it was not for sale. It was only for exhibition only. It was an installation. So I can't really tell how you price your work.
I do sell my work, and I'm working with a couple of galleries now. I also work a lot with commissions, and I work a lot with grant funding from like the European Union or from various different kind of like institutional bodies. And sometimes it's like commission acquisition and things like that. So there are lots of different kind of like, I think, models, although I am less kind of confident that that is a sustainable way of working given the current economic and financial situation that is going on at the moment. And that's why kind of things like, so I also last year built my own kind of blockchain auction site and tried to sell things on that as an experiment. So just again, to see how it works from like building everything from the ground up. Because I was really interested about whether that would be a way of democratizing work, whether it's the way that, taking it out of from these kind of gallery relationships where it's kind of like one person who's controlling like the wealthy kind of collectors, and there's all this dynamics, and I was interested to see whether you could just do it kind of fairly anonymously and reach an audience yourself. And that experiment was.
How did it work for you, your blockchain experience?
So I found it very confusing to work with as a technology. I would not do it again. Building everything, it was not fun. I think there's really interesting conceptual things that you can do with it, which maybe we can talk a bit later about kind of like the whole blockchain thing. But I still felt like you just end up with another gatekeeper situation, because it is quite difficult to kind of have a wallet and to kind of transfer money, and kind of, so you end up just kind of appealing to those people who are familiar with blockchain, and it's not truly, I feel, democratizing it out, because you still need to have a certain literacy with kind of like technology in order to kind of get to the space where you're buying things. So that was kind of interesting. But to kind of go back to the question about how female work is priced, and this chart in particular, I'd be really interested to see like male versus female artists' work priced by age, because what I suspect by kind of like anecdotally talking to people is that you have a lot of kind of like female artists who are maybe in their 20s, and their prices are probably going to be similar to their male peers. And then as kind of like, because kind of like if you think about like Rachel Ara's piece, which is so good, that kind of like updates when she gets like awards and prizes and residencies, And so much of that is predicated on kind of like being able to travel, to do talks, to kind of like, to go to openings, to go abroad and do residencies. And I feel that kind of like, as you kind of like, as women kind of like, maybe start a family, start to do other caregiving responsibilities, start to kind of like do all of this other stuff, their ability to participate in the art market world decreases. So maybe they kind of stay at that same level, whereas their male peers who maybe don't have those same responsibilities or same kind of like pressures are able to travel and to kind of expose themselves, not expose themselves, to kind of like go out and kind of like go to the openings, go to like do these prestigious residencies. And I think there probably will be this kind of like, that maybe that's one of the reasons why their work is priced higher.
Do you think it might be also just because we as women, you know, like should, maybe it's coming from us, our insecurities, and we just say, maybe, you know, like we are shy to ask for more, or for the actual real value of the art that we create, or of any kind of job that we do, you know, that we are a little bit shy and modest to take a credit for whatever we do? I mean, just not to kind of blame, you know, that it's the male dominant, but, you know, like to say that maybe it's within our insecurities and our complexes, you know, that can kind of influence us of how we feel about our work. And we always kind of shy and insecure in order to ask, you know, like, oh no, I want, can I ask 10,000 for this work? Oh no, maybe I should ask for 2, you know, maybe it will sell. Oh wow. And we kind of feel like maybe it's not gonna sell, and we are worried too much and we think too much. I mean, women still have, they do have a tendency to overthink. I'm a woman myself, I overthink every time. But, you know, like if it comes to evaluating your work, I mean, you are the only person who can tell how much effort and how much emotional connection and time and effort you have spent on this work. And I think it's only the artist who can actually truly say, this is super valuable for me, especially, and this is like less, even though there might be other parties coming in and saying, oh no, we love this work, you know, this work should cost, I don't know, 10,000, and another gallerist would come and say, oh, you know, we evaluated by the tendencies of a measurement as in the contemporary art, you know, because it's, I don't know, 2 meters by 2 meters, so it should be valued like that. I mean, and when it comes to digital art and when it comes to crypto art and generative art in general, I think, you know, this kind of standard models of valuation of art is becoming more and more blurry, and you cannot really estimate and evaluate the work and put up a price tag on the work just because it's small, or it's because it's big, or because it's digital, or because it's print, you know, like. So this kind of valuation in generative art, from what I experience, I more relate to the artist and to talk to the artist of how much time and effort and emotional you know, things were invested in one or another work. I think Helena has something to say about that, because I think
let's ask Sofia.
Okay, I think, you know, there is a difference, you know, between I mean, how you feel about your work as well, and how you would price your work, right?
Definitely. And I fully agree with what Helena was saying previously about like undervaluing one's own work. I think I've definitely experienced the same too, where, you know, I'm like, okay, well, I guess this could be worth this much. And then I see, you know, another work by a male artist and it's worth so much more. And I'm like,
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah, exactly.
How can it be possible? And I stay for some time thinking, like, where does the value come from? And I cannot find like an answer. But I think that we see the same kind of chart in a lot of different disciplines, like with the wage gap as well. So I don't think this is exclusive to the art world.
No, the topic is much broader. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's difficult. Go ahead.
No, and I think like so I've read a few books on the topic because well, at some point in my life I wanted to understand why I was feeling like being a woman was hindering me professionally, and I didn't know if I was or if it was all in my head or if it was like really happening. So I read this book called Women Don't Ask. I forgot the name of the author now, but it was pretty revealing because she talks about how women faced with needing a raise at their jobs, maybe because they have to raise a family, or maybe because they just want to get a raise because they deserve it, how they wouldn't speak up for it. And then they would see a male peer coming and getting that raise, and they would just stay behind. And so I wondered, like, could it be a matter of education? Is it possible to teach somebody like passivity and accepting things, and to teach another gender to go for what they want and to really empower them? I know this is something much deeper, like for much deeper discussion, and I don't need to be like too radical about it. But I think that well, this kind of opportunities of like talking about these issues is empowering in itself, and makes me feel like maybe it's not all in my head. Maybe it is really happening to other women too, that they're, you know, able to see this biases happening.
I think it's very important that, you know, that one woman can talk about the same issues, you know, with another, because also, you know, there is a tendency that we are even shy to speak about it, you know, or to share certain questions that we have in our head. And I thank you for Sofia for sharing. The book is actually by I think it's by Linda Babcock. Linda
Okay.
So it's a woman who has written this book. And yeah, I think the topic goes beyond. I don't know if other ladies has anything else to add to that, because I can definitely speak a lot about this topic. I mean, since I moved to Switzerland, I can just say in one of the contents, the women were allowed to elect, to vote only in 1971.
Oh, right. I think Switzerland was like the very last country to approve the female vote. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can imagine there's this topic is a really a big topic here, I think.
I think some of it's revealed if you imagine sort of women saying things that men say, or vice versa. And I recently was at a studio visit with a male artist who kept saying how great his work was. And I just thought, if I said that, people would think I was insane. You know, it just wouldn't sound right coming from a woman. And he was very charming, you know, and he did it in a nice way. And the work was strong. But I just think that if a woman did that, it would be very hard to pull off. And it reminded me of that Yes Men intervention artwork where they switched the voice boxes of Ken and Barbie. And they had Ken saying like, math is hard.
I think in a way, this is what you're pointing out is exactly the problem that we have with art, because if it were another field, like let's say just data science, we could say like, okay, how can we measure your performance versus a male peer? And we can look maybe at numbers or your performance overall. But in art, how do we say this piece is worth more than the other one? And like when the line sometimes can be really blurry. Sometimes it's easier because of context, whatever other reasons that happened. But sometimes that line can be just really, really hard to tell. And I definitely agree with that. Like, I think if I went out screaming like, my art is amazing, like, look at it, and you know, I just really believe in it, so you should all be buying it. I think I would sound like a completely,
They say that
There's like a double whammy too with doing digital artwork, because I think it's hard to sell digital artwork in general to most art collectors. You know, I find really outside of New York City, it's hard to sell digital artwork at all. And my experience has been when it's in especially a digital form, it's especially challenging to sell it. And I didn't realize how extreme this was until I recently was in an art fair where I had made images with a GAN, but they were very low resolution. So I couldn't really print them or use them as they were. And I used them as a basis for composition for oil paintings. And in less than a week, I sold over 20 oil paintings. And it was like, wow, the traditional art world is so much easier in a way because people understand what they're collecting. And sometimes we don't realize how much education we're doing all the time to our collectors of what they're buying. So I think there's two things you have to overcome as a woman working with digital.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but you know, like I also see the tendency, like for example, in the United States, the big works were always so important because I mean, you have quite a big mansions and you have space to things. In Europe, the houses, you know, they tend to be smaller and the real estate is a little bit more pricey, particularly in Switzerland or in Germany or even in London, you know, London properties, you know, they have very, very small, narrow corridors and things like that. So the small is the new big, you know, that's what actually Kevin Abosch said to me 1 year ago, you know, like, and you know, when it comes to, I want to come back to the topic of pricing and evaluating the art. When it comes to digital art, I mean, in order to sell it, it's extremely difficult to explain it. You know, should be an educational part of it, you know, as well, and then also evaluate it in a correct way. That's why I think, you know, for me as a gallerist would be also an additional component which has to be added in when you evaluate your work. It's coming from the artist, and the artist has to be the one kind of putting the foot down and saying, I feel that this is work and I believe this is like, you know, the should be priced minimum for this, you know, and then we kind of add all the additional models of how we evaluate work. I don't know, looking at the size, the medium, and the complexity and some creative effects of that, you know. I don't know if how you usually, I don't know, you how do you price the work by yourself? I mean, when you deal with prints or digital work, because I haven't worked with you, so I don't know. I would be, I would be glad to listen how you usually price it. Or do you consult with also the gallerists or dealers in order to price your work?
Yeah,
just
oh, sorry, Anna.
Oh, Anna's, yeah, Anna, yeah.
Oh, you go first.
I think, you know, sort of like real estate, you know, looking at comps. So talking to my friends who are in the same space and seeing what similar work goes for with artists sort of at the same stage of their careers and trying to price it within what seems like the right, you know, market space for it.
Okay. But comparing it with male artists as well, not necessarily female artists.
I guess a lot of the comparisons are with female artists because a lot of my friends are female artists. I haven't actually thought about that before, so that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So female artists that you consult usually with.
Yeah.
About the pricing. Okay. Interesting. And you, Anna?
It's similar. So I talk to my friends who are in the similar space. I talk to galleries. I talk to curators as well. And kind of like, I think price kind of like does, so things like kind of like being in certain shows or being in certain institutions, I think can raise the price. Like if it's been in press, I think that can also raise the price. So like there are some works that I have that are just way more expensive than others, and that's just, but it's not that I spent less time on them. I think it's just that they have like more of a profile, and I think that does kind of like that kind of like aspect of it does change. And I think but that's all kind of like, it's like this weird, complicated algorithm that kind of like, I wish it was public, because it is like, it's so, I wish there was something that you could plug in that, you know, you spent this many hours on it, it appeared in this like one press article and 3 exhibitions, and then it's worth X number of dollars, but it's not. And it just feels like this very black box thing that is just like, it's such a mystery.
Definitely. And I think if that algorithm were to exist, like the art made by artists who aren't alive anymore would be worth a lot less than it is. Sometimes it's another thing, like on top of the gender thing. Sometimes I think like maybe I should just be dead for my art to be worth more, like more than what it is.
Yeah, there is a certain social, how do you say, social influence of how we see things and how we evaluate things, and also social expectations in general, not only on the artists, probably, you know, like how people look at the woman, what they expect from the woman, what they expect the woman supposed to do for a job, for a living. You know, if the woman is working in art and tech, it's already not a typical probably profile, you know, like, and there is some kind of probably how do you call it, oh, help me with the word, not association, but some sort of like when people believe that this is their ideal woman supposed
Perception.
Exactly, perception of the female artist as well, you know, and the pricing and the behavior and how you talk about your art and how you feel about your art, and obviously, you know, the reason why, you know, just a good example that you said that if I would step into the space and say, oh, my art is the best, I'm a genius, I'm a great artist, you know, people would not expect that from the woman. You know, you would automatically be probably flagged with being arrogant and I don't know, lack of taste or some kind of education. But for the man, it's kind of okay because he's just a charming pal, you know. So, and I think, you know, it's also something to do with the society, you know, and of how we perceive still a woman in general.
Definitely.
Do you think like women should be more like male artists, or do you think male artists should be more like female artists?
That's a good question.
I think something in between, personally, because I think women need to ask, like, go more for what they believe in. And I think that, like, one can learn from the other one. Sometimes I also think, like, you know, you see some male artists, like, maybe very full of themselves. No, you see that, like, from time to time, you know, rarely. And you think, like, okay, you have a few lessons on modesty to learn, but... So, like, personally, I just think kind of in between.
I don't know. I don't want to overprice stuff. And again, I mean, for me, it's like spread the beauty, spread the thing, make things affordable, and that's maybe how I see it. I don't see it like something like belongs to rich collectors or something. And I think digital art or like this small kind of art is sort of a good fit, because you don't spend like you said, you don't need like some physical assets in the house to put a print. Prints are affordable, but still it's a little bit, I mean, I do limited edition, so there is a rarity. But still, I mean, I'm about like digital art is a democratic one, and that's why I like it so much.
That's true, but haven't you had some misunderstanding of how you evaluate your works, because there were some difference in pricing and people got a bit confused?
You say, if we talk specifically about crypto, just to limit the subject, I think at some point you just like, since like, especially on super rare, it's a single edition, you just like, for me, it's how hard for me to give away this thing. So that's why, that's the only evaluation. Something that like I enjoy making, and but it's a sort of like, I mean, it's a skills, it's a small thing, then it's priced like so. That's why all my this series of fashion drawings, they were priced very low, and they went away, I mean, right away. But I don't care. I think this is how it should have been priced. But something that I have like really strong attachment, like my works like Gun Weaver or Stack Characters, they are priced high, and I want some kind of like loving collector to get them. And for artists, I also, even if I have like a higher price, if some kind of like a friend artist or person who I respect, I will sell it for low. So it's just like very fluid, and I think crypto allows us to kind of like do this. It's not manipulation, it's just like kind of like on a personal level.
About the freedom of your choice and freedom
yes, exactly.
Operate. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think like for myself, I relate a lot to that. At the same time, I kind of like, for example, being paid for a piece and put like a lot of effort into it. So working on something larger, I enjoy that. And at the same time, like selling and having something more accessible, like the people who pay just a smaller price, but you can see like it brings them so much joy that they really like write you and thank you for it. Like there's kind of a combination of both things, which I really like. For me, like the sweet spot is somewhere where you have kind of both things going on in a like business model of an artist.
Okay. Interesting, but I think it's also a big difference, because I did not hear so far any male artist saying, you know, like I felt like it's gonna bring joy to another collector. That's what it's kind of meant. Again, it's more it's more for women, you know, that you have the same like, oh, because you get some value out of bringing joy to other people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it means a lot to me when I can see like it makes someone happy, you know, and they send me pictures of it and they share it, and I just feel like, oh, it fulfills me, you know. And then I realize, oh no, I don't have any money.
Yeah, exactly. You still need to make a living.
I need to pay rent.
Yeah.
But my heart is so warm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the choices we have to make, you know.
Definitely. So
I think that's something that's encouraged by sites like Super Rare or the Dada.art that we were discussing on our previous panel, where there's kind of a community of people and you can give feedback on work, and there's also this transparency with the pricing. I think it really is an exciting new kind of art economy and world to participate in, and it might affect some of the gender disparity.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I wanted to, because we have already like 45 minutes, we've been talking even more. I just want to catch up, because I mean, all three of you, Helena, Sofia, and now Anna and Spalter, they're all on Super Rare, and you now have available tokenized works that you kind of have your experience in the crypto space. With Anna Ridler, I wanted her to join, you know, to share how you can create art and how you sell art, and how I mean, what your thoughts about the crypto space, about the blockchain platforms, to use it probably as to legitimate how do you say, to legitimize the digital artwork. And also I will put a slide where we see your fragment of the work that we've been exhibiting, so maybe you can also tell us a little bit more about your practice.
So this is a work that is now a couple of years old, and it was part of a research that I was doing, where I was comparing kind of the speculation that happened in the 17th century in Holland and the Netherlands, with tulips and tulip mania, where the price of a tulip bulb went for the same amount of price as Amsterdam townhouse, which is, and with the kind of speculation that was happening at the time around cryptocurrencies, where people were just like buying and the price was just going up like that. And also the speculation that is kind of still happening around AI and machine learning, like it's this big boom and kind of like there will be a crash eventually. And so I was interested in kind of exploring all of these things and making parallels between kind of these different moments in history, kind of like, and what you could kind of maybe see and kind of like connect by kind of making the piece about tulips and kind of like this moment of kind of like speculation, because at the time people who I knew who just like had no interest in technology whatsoever were just buying Bitcoin just because they thought it would like make them millionaires. And that kind of like movement into the space where people don't really understand the technology, they're just doing it because like they think they're going to become really wealthy. And that kind of also was happening with the tulips in this moment of time in the 17th century. People weren't buying them because they were beautiful flowers, they were buying them because they were assets. So that's kind of how I got interested in it. And then I kind of like also worked after that project. As I mentioned before, I kind of built my own kind of auction site. And one of the things that I found super interesting about working in this space was the way that you can kind of control the experience that someone has of your piece through the contract. And so I kind of like did it so that the token, like it would essentially kind of, the flower would disintegrate after it had been watched a certain number of, so I sold these short moving image clips, and the flower would kind of, it would disappear after a certain amount of time, basically the lifespan of a cut tulip. And you can start to play, you can start to have this really kind of like interesting interaction, I think, with the viewer or the person who's buying it, in the way that kind of normally when you're doing online work, or kind of like your work is being shown online, you kind of have no control about, you know, where it's going to be seen, what are the light levels, is there sound, is it in a really busy environment? So this kind of small piece of kind of like you being able to kind of like affect the viewer, affect kind of how that piece is being consumed, outside of a gallery, outside of a controlled space, for me is really exciting.
Fascinating. And have you been exhibiting these works only as a part of the museum installation?
Yeah, so to kind of go back to this other point, not to kind of keep bringing it back to money, but money is so important, is that a lot of my work comes from kind of like institutional commissions, which I think for me makes it really lucky, because then it means that I can like make these things or do these things and not really have to worry about selling them. And like the sales come much later. And so that I think there's like quite a nice freedom that comes from just being like, someone is giving you X number of pounds or euros or dollars or whatever to then kind of create something without a commercial incentive, I suppose. And so like the blockchain piece was commissioned by Heck in Heck Basel. As part of their show. And so that was kind of like I just did it because they wanted a further piece to kind of explore this tulip theme, and then I just made it. I didn't expect to make any money out of it. I'm not selling it. It's just kind of like an experiment that lives on my website. Doesn't, and kind of like it was a very short, it was almost like a performance because it lasted for the duration of the exhibition and then has come down. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of like,
not only for exhibition in Heck Museum in Basel, but it also was exhibited at the gallery. And actually, you know, it was the first gallery exhibition about blockchain, and we had all very sophisticated works, you know, engineered with the blockchain, but we didn't have any single work tokenized as an NFT, you know, back at that time. It's very interesting because at that time, you know, these blockchain platforms were still not so popular. And
yeah.
we had one of his CryptoPunks exhibited as a physical form, and in the envelope, which was accompanying the physical work, the physical print, was a sealed envelope with if you kind of break the seal, and the seal was made really nicely because it was kind of stamped with a punk face of the punk that you're buying. And then as soon as you access this kind of, if you break it and access what is in the envelope, you will get an access to the private key to get to the NFT, which was on Larva Labs on their servers, you know. So, I mean, people did not break the envelopes. You know, I know every single collector purchased the works. There were only 24 of them physically made together with this kind of gambling, you know, whether you want to access also the digital form of it, you know, and then maybe physical will become less valuable, you know. None of them broke the envelope.
It's really interesting.
The physical outcome, you know, together with this envelope. And it was interesting because we didn't have any NFTs on sale. And just 1 year later, 2019, in August, so 1 year ago, we had tokenized things on OpenSea for one of the solo exhibitions. And it was the first time when we had to educate the crowd, you know, here, even though I think, you know, the Switzerland is a very developed country in terms of tokenizations and crypto and things like that. We had to also find a way how we can sell things, you know, sell digital work through blockchain, and also be able to sell this digital file to the people who doesn't want to be exposed to this blockchain and to crypto and to have a wallet or something like that, you know. So it was kind of a combination of all. And I was pretty happy, you know, that there was such a big shift, you know, in the market, you know, like there were so many sales, new artists coming into the crypto space, and that we have more and more blockchain platforms, and Super Rare is doing so great, you know, like, and doing more kind of curatorial work on their platform, and serves more as a gallery purpose as well, and has very strong community of the collectors. That you see also an increase in pricing of all these NFTs. That, for example, I'm sure you've heard, like, you know, that if it was sold for $50, you know, like 1-2 years ago, now some of them they sell for over 10,000, or even, you know, if we don't take this kind of cases which are well known in crypto space, they still had a huge increase in the numbers. I wonder if you have collectors who ask you questions, you know, when it comes to when you say you have NFT available. I mean, Anna, maybe not relevant to you at this moment, but maybe you will consider to have some kind of token and join Super Rare. But do you have collectors, you know, who come to you and say, like, why shall I buy the NFT? I mean, if you are dealing with collectors from your side directly. Girls?
No, I mean, to me, like in that case, nobody ever came and asked me, why should I buy this?
Because you used to sell prints, right? You've been introduced to the crypto space quite recently.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So is there any difference that maybe people ask you or collectors ask you, you know, I mean, why shall I buy NFT, for example, or if I can buy a print? Or maybe there are people asking, we don't want a print, we want NFT.
I had both. Like I had people asking me to put like an NFT out, and I have people asking me for prints of the works, but never somebody saying like, why should I buy it? I didn't have to prove that yet.
Okay, because I mean, we have a tendency that many people buy both, you know, like print and NFTs, and or some people prefer just NFTs because they collect only like crypto art. I don't know, maybe Helena, you had some cases where you can comment on that?
Not that, no, usually like people who come for NFT on Super Rare is just people who already know what they are doing. So they might kind of like try to negotiate the price behind the scenes. This happens a lot.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, but this is kind of like, because it's like a movable feast we have here. So I know how to I mean, I learned how to deal with this sort of like behind the scenes negotiation. But in many cases, like, yeah, I mean, people ask for prints or get confused because now they think that they need to pay for prints also in crypto. So this is like, again, a lot of education, and I'm glad we have Twitter where everybody kind of like together, so we can do like education and like learning together one tweet at a time. So yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to ask a question. I wanted to ask if you think that platforms like Super Rare, or not just Super Rare, but you know, crypto art platforms in general, if you think they should make an effort to promote diversity, or if you think that it's just like because I have friends who say like all that matters is your skill, and yeah, all that matters is how good you are, and diversity isn't something that you can like push or, you know, enforce in a way. Of course it cannot be like enforced here, but I mean more like, should they try to promote it actively? I'm curious about what you think.
Do you mean for the artists or for the collectors?
Well, both, but mainly for the artists. So like to bring kind of like highlight diversity in the crypto art world, so that it's not all, you know, it doesn't all have to be like this transparent and kind of like all these personas that nobody knows who they are. Because I think like a lot of artists, like we are people, we are real people of flesh and bone, and you know, I think it is important to also treat ourselves like in a humanizing way. So that's my personal opinion, you know, but I'm just interested in what you think about it.
Well, I think there are two issues that you touched. You know, like first is you know, to bring more probably female artists into crypto space, and I think, you know, so far maybe not all of the platforms. I do not have statistics for all of them. I just kind of gathered the statistics with Super Rare, and I think, you know, from what we can say, there are quite a lot of female artists,
Yes.
and they sell quite good, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know whether it has to do with being kind of gender free, because some of the names you cannot even say, you know, like if it's a female artist or if it's a male artist. Some of the artists also not so aesthetic that you cannot really read that this was done by the woman. I don't know the reason why. I think it's also maybe something to do because it's really like behind the screen, that it's really like there is no kind of you know, that nobody really knows who is behind the screen, you know, even if there is a name and even somebody knows, okay, this is a name, I don't know if it's a real name, if it's not a real name, I have no idea. And I think, you know, in this sense, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose. We can, I guess, ask, and maybe Super Rare can respond to us, you know, like if they're trying to reach out to more female artists in order to bring this awareness of such spaces. I can only say from my side that I try to bring as many artists as possible and introduce them to different tools, you know, not necessarily, I don't believe that, you know, you have to sell only on blockchain or only like in traditional way, but just, you know, to give the artist a diversity of options, you know, and then the artist can decide himself, you know, whether he would like to have this option or not, you know, whether he would like to run a project and try it out or not, you know. And the second thing that you touched, I think it's very important in terms of collectors. that, you know, we see more transparency about the artists, but we do not see so much transparency about the collectors. This is something is a bit worry, you know, because obviously, I mean, we are all exposed there, as you say, human body, you know,
Yeah.
knows our names, I mean, our where we live and breathe, but we don't know anything about them, you know, and that kind of this kind of transparency, you know, I would encourage probably, you know, and I do understand that, you know, the majority of the platforms were built, you know, to democratize the space, you know, to link one to another. But I think there should be also some fair rules, you know, that these platforms probably can collect this kind of data. I mean, not necessarily you have to open up and show your face to the world if you don't want to, but, you know, if you operate within this platform, so probably at least the platform can take a responsibility of how do you say, of a KYC, you know your client, know your artist, you know, who is behind the screen, you know, just to make sure that if something happens, that we understand who is the person behind the screen, and somebody has to take responsibility for this, just to bring more transparency for these platforms. This would be something that I wish we can all agree on.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, you, for to be accepted as an artist, you have to submit a video of yourself
Yeah,
saying in front of the camera what you do. But as a collector, that's not a requirement. So you just come with the money and you collect, and you can like say whatever you want about anybody's work and basically behave however you want. You can bid on something and withdraw, affecting the stats of an artist. So you can like potentially harm an artist without ever like taking any responsibility for it. So personally, I think that like there has to be a way to make it more to humanize collectors too, in a way that they, you know, there is also responsibility from both sides.
great. Yeah, well, I think, you know, we all can start from ourselves. We are open, we are here, we are talking about the questions, we are not afraid to raise them and discuss and take responsibility for the words, but I guess, you know, we just can encourage other people to behave the same and
Exactly.
and also respect the work of another. And I don't think they mean it badly, you know, like if they bid and then withdraw. I do understand also many collectors, you know, like, and for me it's a bit on the both sides, it's difficult to be to understand both parties, you know. Sometimes they mean it bad, you know, just it happens, you know.
No, definitely.
Because, you know, like they also need this kind of money maybe to invest somewhere else. They still want to work, but we didn't get a response, you know. So sometimes it's really that they don't mean it bad, but sometimes, yes, of course, it still hurts the artist, and it's not only about female artists, it's about generally, you know, that you see that your work has been praised, that your work has been valued, and all of a sudden all the bids are withdrawn. Kind of painful. I do understand. So yeah, we can just probably encourage everyone to say, if you bid for the work, make sure you want the work, you know, don't don't reject. I want to ask, I want to show the work that Anne has tokenized recently, Daytime Skyship. I think it's also behind your, as a background, right, Anne?
It is part of it. You can see in my background.
You know, just
Wrong aspect ratio.
maybe it's a short description, you know, like, because it's your first work on the blockchain. As far as I know, maybe you can just say a few words about it, and then
It's part of a series, so there's going to be 2 other times of day that will be posted in the upcoming weeks. And the work is inspired by reading I did by Carl Jung in his treatise called Flying Saucers and Things Seen in the Sky. And he says that people see UFOs come down from the sky as a subconscious desire for something to come from outer space and save us in troubled times. And he wrote it in the 60s, but I think it's very applicable to today.
Mhm.
So I love that concept. And it's a moving image piece, and the skyship rotates, and it's a 3D form that's based on a GAN generated form created with inputs of my previous artwork and airplanes put together.
Okay, okay, and we can find it on your address as Spalter 7, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I just share the screen again, so everybody can see how everybody can contact the artists. Sofia Crespo on Super Rare, this is your account. Spalter 7. Now also newly joined Anna Ridler. We hope we are gonna create some project space. But so far we have only we can browse your works on the website. And Glagolista, Helena Sarin, I think very well-known woman in the crypto space. Everybody was blown away with your creative works. So yeah, Glagolista, we all know where to find your work. By the way, I wanted to promote something else. I wanted to show that I received the book from Glagolista, the last one, I think, right, Helena?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any copies left.
Yeah. Just to show that I got it, and I'm really happy, you know, like that I can also
I'm glad you have it.
collect the books and also collect the works.
Yeah.
And, I mean, from my side, I just want to wish that we have more time to discuss more things and more projects, and maybe to talk more about the artworks, but that was not the tema of our discussion. And thank you very much all for joining, and I hope we can continue our conversation some other time.
Okay. Thank you so much
you.
for hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.